Here we got President Dieter F. Uchtdorf of the First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Houston area, speaking to the saints because he's there and they're going to help clean things up. President Uchtdorf is going to tell us that we are serving Jesus Christ, that our deeds will be remembered and probably bring people to the true gospel. Dieter went and told about how President Brigham Young was such a great leader when people needed help in times of difficulty, and he adjourned General Conference early so that they could go help the the Martin Handcart Company that were stuck in the snow and were a little more fortunate than the Donner Party and didn't wind up eating each other in the snow drifts on the way to their destination. So he gives an inspiring talk to all these people. Do you notice the yellow shirts? Here's Dieter Uchtdorf arriving here, probably at a stake center. I don't know where this is. Maybe it's in a nice area, like Katy, for instance. Looks pretty nice, huh? Yeah, and they just happen to have cameras there, which is great for public relations. And that's kind of what I wanted to notice. I mean, it's great to serve one another and help one another, but the church is a gigantic business conglomerate, and this is a marvelous marketing opportunity. As a matter of fact, we're looking at a marketing opportunity right here. Mormon Helping Hands, plastered as billboard advertisement all over people. These people are all advertisements for the church. Dieter makes sure he's wearing this for talking with a Red Cross guy who just conveniently happens to be saying how wonderful the LDS Church is, feeding people spiritually and physically. Yeah, so what did Jesus say about this? What does it say in the New Testament? I mean, if you believe that Jesus actually existed, it does quote him saying that this is not the way to do things. He specifically said, do not let your left hand know what your right hand's doing, or vice versa. He said, don't be like the Pharisees that wear their Mormon Helping Hands t-shirts out there in public and advertise their good works. But your Father who seeth your good works in secret will reward you openly. However, that's not the way that the church does it. Now, why is that? Do they not revere Jesus to be the Christ? He was just talking about how we were following Jesus, but that doesn't work too well for marketing your multi-billion-dollar corporate empire. And that's exactly what the church actually is. In fact, events like these are not only wonderful marketing opportunities, they also tend to bring in a lot of cash because the church uses these opportunities to advertise what they're doing and take advantage of the opportunity that is at hand by the suffering of others and solicit massive donations. And the church is not very transparent, last I checked, with how they handle their money. And I'm not quite sure how I even got the information long ago, but I remember seeing something that seemed to indicate we had figures on another particular disaster. Maybe it was Hurricane Katrina or something else, where the church advertised asking for donations, but only actually contributed a small portion of what they received to that event when the outpouring of donations came in. And it turned out to be a very, very profitable event for the church in cash, is the way I recall reading it. Not to mention the marvelous success in public relations, which leads to residual tithing on new members converted by the public relations efforts made by the church. So here we've got our right hand knowing darn well what our left hand is doing. We've got the hands right up there advertising, hey, we are Mormons. This is the Mormon Church. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Look at how Dieter embraces the people, just like the Savior himself. Yep. And we see this sort of thing in a lot of organizations. But if we look at the finances, are we going to find the type of accounting for the money that we would hope would be there if supposed Jesus was guiding them? Do we see that in the Red Cross? Do we see this type of charitable giving associated with those who flaunt their charities, like let's say the Shriners, your 33rd degree Freemasons? Is that what they do, or do they advertise asking for money constantly on television for their Shriners hospitals, showing us children with terrible situations, and they're asking for money? I'm not saying that helping people is bad, but I'm saying that these organizations flaunt themselves as so charitable, but they're bringing in massive donations. Same things with like St. Jude's Hospital for that's a Catholic-owned thing, and the church is no different. Many of these organizations capitalize. We've seen articles or people talking about Joel Osteen, looking for a chance to profiteer off what's going on here in Houston. So, if we look past all the glitter and glam, perhaps we can recall what Jesus supposedly said in the New Testament, that we should not flaunt what we're doing, that our left hand should not know what our right hand was doing, or vice versa, and that our Father who seeth in secret would reward us openly, instead of us flaunting it with public relations videos all over the internet. In this video, we're going to learn a little bit more about the corporate nature of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the enormous corporate business enterprise that the church actually is. Although it seems to be very popular to go under the guise of ministers for Jesus Christ, these company men like Dieter Uchtdorf are promoting a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that isn't exactly the way they want us to believe that it is. It's not quite the way it appears. So I'm going to take a look at the Reed Smoot investigation. Senator Reed Smoot, who was also an apostle, was investigated, and the church was somewhat investigated, and there's some very interesting testimony. And I'm going to get to that just as soon as I read a little bit from someone's post regarding some of the church-owned companies or holding companies, which each, in many cases, are owners of other businesses, so that this is a very partial list. But let's take a look and see what we've got here. Deseret Management Corporation. How much is underneath that? I don't even know, but it's quite a bit. Beneficial Financial Group, an enormous business, and loan sharking is really one of the big parts of it, as well as beneficial life insurance. But you see, you pay your life insurance premiums, they're invested in other things. And one of those things they're invested in is high interest loans, loan sharking, taking advantage of people that just don't have great credit. And so this is one of the loan sharking companies out there with probably some of the worst reputation as far as taking advantage of people goes, and it is owned by the church. Bonneville International, huge communications company. Bonneville Communications, Bonneville Interactive Services, Bonneville Satellite, 35 different radio stations, one television station, that's KSL in Salt Lake. Deseret Book, probably bigger than you think. XL Entertainment. Deseret Morning News, Hawaii Reserves. Gee, I wonder what all could be owned underneath that. We've got website links here. You might want to find the time to look at this stuff. Polynesian Cultural Center, Lae Shopping Center, if I pronounce these Hawaiian things right. Lae Park, Lae Cemetery, Lae Beach Park, Lae Water Company, Lae Treatment Works for the sewer, M-Star, whatever in the world that is, Temple Square Hospitality, Weddings, the Inn at Temple Square, Lion House Pantry, some restaurants here, I guess, the Roof Restaurant, I think I ate there once, the Garden Restaurant, Passages Restaurant, Zion Securities Corporation, I bet that's interesting, Farm Management Corporation, Commercial Farms and Agricultural Properties, Deseret Land and Livestock, 200,000 acres of land in a couple of counties there in Utah. Sun Ranch, Martins Cove. Deseret Ranches of Florida, Orlando's largest ranch in Florida. Deseret Farms of California. Rolling Hills in Idaho. West Hills Orchard in Utah. Cactus Lane Ranch, Arizona. Corporations of the presiding bishop of the church. Corporations of the president of the church. Deseret Trust Company, LDS Family Services, yeah, I guess there's money in that too. Property Reserves Incorporated, Ensign Peak Advisors, Deseret Mutual Benefit Administrators, and then some BYU stuff there, and for 3 BYU campuses plus LDS Business College. Okay, investigating what businesses are underneath those might be interested. I didn't even see anything about City Creek Mall. That's got to be underneath one of those. And what did that cost? Into the billions, maybe? A lot of people in Utah know about that. I haven't paid much attention, but it's built on tithing, baby. And what did President Monson say? Let's go shopping. I can just see Jesus doing that. All right, so this person has got the Reed Smoot Senate testimony here, and I just think it's nice to read this. Mr. Taylor, Senate Attorney, what is your business? This is to Joseph F. Smith, I believe. Mr. Smith, Mormon prophet and president. My principal business is that of president of the church. Mr. Taylor, in what other businesses are you engaged? I'm engaged in numerous other businesses. What? I'm president of Zion's Cooperative Mercantile Institution. In other words, ZCMI. Maybe you've noticed that, like the ZCMI mall across from the temple, Salt Lake. Part of this was about wondering how he had time to be a prophet and get revelations. Then again, I think in the other day's testimony, he said he'd never had any revelations. And that he had 5 wives and had 11 children from these plural wives after the 1890 declaration that there wasn't to be any more polygamy. Okay, Mr. Taylor says, of what other corporations are you an officer? The prophet says, I'm president of the State Bank of Utah, another institution. What else? President of Zion's Savings Bank and Trust Company. So he's the bank president too, huh? And the prophet. What else? I'm the president of the Utah Sugar Company. What else? I'm the president of Consolidated Wagon and Machine Company. What else? There are several other small institutions with which I'm associated. Again, this is the prophet, President Joseph F. Smith. Mr. Taylor, are you associated with the Utah Light and Power Company? I am. In what capacity? I'm a director and president of the company. A director and the president? Yes, sir. Had you that in mind when you classified the others as small concerns? No, sir, I had not that in mind. That is a large concern, ? That is a large concern? Are you an officer of the Salt Lake and Los Angeles Railroad Company? Yes, I am. What? President and director. Mr. Taylor says, of what else are you president? President of the church. Smith says, I am president of the Salt Air Beach Company. What else, if you can recall? I do not recall just now, says the prophet. What relation do you sustain to the Idaho Sugar Company? I am a director of that company and also the president of it. Of the Inland Crystal Salt Company? Also the same position there. The Salt Lake Dramatic Association. I am president of that and also a director. Are you president of any other corporation there? I do not know. Perhaps you can tell me. I do not remember any more just now, says the prophet. Sounds a little irritated. Mr. Taylor says, it would seem that the number has grown so large that it would be an undue tax upon your memory to charge you with naming them all. If you can't name them, how can you manage them? What relation do you sustain to the Salt Lake Knitting Company? Did I already ask you about it? No, sir, you did not. The Salt Lake Knitting Company? I am president of it and also a director. Mr. Taylor says, the Union Pacific Railway Company? I am a director. That's the Union Pacific Railway. That's pretty big. Mr. Taylor, are you an official of any mining companies? Yes, sir. What? I'm the vice president of the Bullion, Beck, and Champion Mining Company. Mr. Taylor says, how about the Deseret News? He didn't say how about. No, sir. You have no business relations with that? No, sir. Is the Deseret News the organ of the church? Well, I suppose in some sense the organ of the church. It is not opposed to the church, at least. This is the prophet, mind you. It has for years published, has it not, at the head of its columns, that it is the organ of the church, or the official organ of the church. President Smith says, not that I know of. Do you know who owns it? How's that? Do you know who owns it? I know who owns the building it's in. Who owns the building in which it is published? The church. The church. Yes, sir. Tell us what you know about the owners of the newspaper. President Smith says, it has been for a number of years past owned by a company, an incorporated company. What is the name of the company? The Deseret News Publishing Company. Do you know who its officers are? No, it is not owned by that company. Oh, it is not? No, it is not. What do you know? But I say for years it was owned by a company of that kind. Says Mr. Taylor. What do you know about its present ownership? Says the prophet. I presume that the present ownership is in the church. You suppose the present owner is the church? Yes, sir, the church. I do not want to have any misconstructions put upon your use of the word presume, because you do not know that it is so owned. I really do not know, so that I could tell you positively. Says Mr. Taylor. Who would know? Says the prophet. I presume I could find out. Says Mr. Taylor. Could you find out before you leave Washington? Perhaps so. All right, a day later, because the ownership of the Deseret News and its articles were keys to the case, President Joseph F. Smith testified. Mr. Taylor says, in what form does your church have title to the Deseret News property? It owns the deed. I'm speaking of the newspaper, not the building, says Mr. Taylor. Says the prophet, the press, yes, I would like to state that when I was asked that question before, Mr. Taylor, I was not aware of the fact that I have since learned from my counsel here that during the trusteeship of Lorenzo Snow, the Deseret News plant was transferred from the Deseret News Company to Lorenzo Snow, trustee in trust. I was not aware of the fact, Mr. Chairman, when that question was asked me yesterday. I believe it was. I have since learned that the fact is that my counsel, who is here, made out the papers for the transfer. Says Mr. Taylor. So that it is now in you as a trustee in trust? Says the prophet. Now I own it as trustee in trust. Furthermore, I will say that I have discovered since yesterday that there is published in the second or third page of the Deseret News the statement that it is the organ of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay, so this is a comment here. It says, as you can see, the church has been about business for a very long time. Yeah, okay, so, yeah, that was quite a while back. So, that's a lot of corporate business for a prophet to be doing, isn't it? Yeah. July 22nd, 2005 is when this was published. Obviously, the transcripts are much, much older than that. So, the corporate interests of the church are vast. 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 And so we have these corporate executives like Dieter, for instance, parading around as ministers of Jesus Christ, promoting this enormous business enterprise on the backs of these tithe-paying people who are solicited for additional donations and anyone else that they can get to donate when we have these disasters. And then their labor is donated, and for that labor the church is able to claim additional benefits in terms of like tax exemptions and so forth, I believe, by showing the hours that these people put forth serving others for free. The church gets the benefits and its corporate empire is more profitable, but the people in the church receive little or nothing for it. They're just told Jesus will be blessing them. Remember, if you keep my commandments, you'll prosper in the land. Unless, of course, you were in the wrong areas of Houston there. Yeah. If you send your... So when you see the public relations activities going on with the church presidents and presiding bishopric rushing in to organize the members to save the day in disaster areas like Houston, remember, what follows is prophets following the prophets. Ja.
Ja, wir gehen nach Houston. Dieses Desaster sind sehr profitable. Ja, Profits für die Profits.
Yeah. Love it, Dieter. Rake it in for the corp. Anybody think it's not coincidence that the ever charismatic Dieter shows up there as the PR man work the cameras instead of, like the half-dead Thomas Monson or the dorky Henry B. Eyre. No, we've got Dieter. He's the Arnold Schwarzenegger of Mormondom. Dieter, you the man. You took over for President Hinckley in the PR department, and you just got a whole new charisma that surpasses Gordy. You the man. Show up to the disaster with the PR cameras rolling. Make a good show for the people. Get your donated labor, all wearing company advertisements in bright yellow. Mormon Helping Hands, with hands outstretched for your donations. Yeah, come back to Salt Lake, and then what follows is that they... Father who seeth in secret would reward us openly, instead of us flaunting it with public relations videos all over the internet, and then asking for donations, which they probably actually profit from, both immediately and long term. That's what I wanted to say. These fronts for organizations which claim to be in contact with divine beings, which conduct themselves as enormous big business conglomerates which have bought corporation after corporation and formed others, do not seem to benefit the members a great deal, but they benefit the corporate stockholders, no doubt. And they've built it on the backs of the tithe payers, and they get this goodwill on the backs of these people who are not being compensated, but they say they'll be compensated in heaven. The Lord will bless them. That's it, the Lord will bless them. Why aren't these people compensated? The church is making big money off of this probably, and they're making big PR money, but the people aren't. No, the people are donating their time. Why shouldn't they be compensated? There are so many, taxpayers, people paying taxes, people paying insurance. Why not compensate the laborers instead of make use of them to benefit multi-billion-dollar corporations built upon investing the tithes of these people into companies such as Beneficial Finance, Beneficial Life, beneficial loan sharking that the church owned outright and possibly still does. Absolute loan sharks, where they take advantage of their people, even their own people, and anyone else they can, that they can gouge with super high interest rates, just like HFC or Ames Home Loan would do. So it is beneficial and it's church owned. What do the scriptures talk about in terms of interest and lending and treating people who are down on their luck, down on their fortunes? Does it teach to rip them off? Companies like Beneficial, loan sharking? I would think the church would be ashamed to be involved in such one. But I mentioned earlier, they used to hold the temple open houses and start the tours, basically. I think a lot of the operations for the San Diego temple right next door, the Beneficial building that the church owned. Yeah, helping hands, helping grab money as fast as they can for enormous corporations that do not benefit the saints, only the corporate shareholders, the directors, and those who are on salary for this enormous corporate operation, including the general authorities, including those in the pictures, like Dieter. He's an LDS corporate boy now. You don't think he doesn't get any compensation after he left Lufthansa and went for special management training there in Switzerland, where he could learn maybe to be such a great persuader? It's like a who's who of Bilderbergers. If you look at where he went to school for management training when he was with Lufthansa. Anyway, let them pat each other on the back and reap the benefits of this disaster together for their corporate conglomerates. There we are. Bishopric, presidency, and registers of Jesus Christ promoting this enormous business enterprise on the backs of these tithe-paying people who are solicited for additional donations and anyone else that they can get to donate when we have these disasters, and then their labor is donated, and for that labor the church is able to claim additional benefits in terms of tax exemptions and so forth, I believe, by showing the hours that these people put forth serving others for free. The church gets the benefits, and its corporate empire is more profitable, but the people in the church receive little or nothing for it. They're just told Jesus will be blessing them. Remember, if you keep my commandments, you'll prosper in the land. Amen. Like and subscribe.